It's 11:59 at Gun Owners Radio, and this is the Penn Patriot, music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I've got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the wall. The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, and another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind American lines, this is your song.
Welcome to Gun Owners Radio. Thank you so much for watching. We got a really cool show here for you, Alicia. I think it's going to be great, which is too bad because Dakota's not here. She is on sabbatical for a week. She's learning how to be a Glock. What do you call it?
Armorer.
She's learning how to be a Glock armorer. Yep. They're teaching her all that she needs to know about the new 6.
Yep.
So she's not here. But how are you doing, Alicia?
I'm doing fantastic.
I think we have a really cool show.
I think we do.
We have some cool guests.
I see that. Yeah.
We have everyone's favorite sheriff. I think is he everyone's favorite sheriff right now in the nation? Mark Lamb.
Mark Lamb and Frank Slope, I think, are the top 2. Yeah.
I don't know who's Frank Slope.
His deputy Frank.
Oh, his deputy.
His deputy Frank.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so if the number 2 guy is the deputy for the number 1 guy, then he's got to be the number 1 guy. I can't think of another sheriff that people are more stoked about in the United States right now.
Yep, I agree.
So that's good. And then Holly from the Citizens Committee for the Right to Keep and Bear Arms. Yep. And I'm going to talk about, I get to give a talk to the Libertarian Party. That was cool. They had their big convention here in town, so... anyway, it's going to be a really, really good show. But Alicia, I have some bad news that I need to show you.
All right.
Yeah. So it's not exactly Second Amendment related, but I was kind of looking through the internet, and anyway, I think it's probably just best to just show you the clip. So go ahead and play the first clip.
I want to stat this video by saying I appreciate you, and I love you. And you're gonna want to sit down for this video. I am getting a divorce. Take a minute. Take it in. I am getting a divorce.
Okay,
Cody and I.
Right there. I don't know if you'd heard. Alicia.
I didn't.
Did you hear about the huge news there?
I did not. I know now.
By the way, I don't know who the hell that lady is.
I was like, "Where's this going?" I don't know either.
You believe the drama? Like I'm going through there, and this woman puts out this video, and the funny thing was nobody knows who this lady is. Like she put out this huge dramatic video, and people are all across the internet making fun of just how dramatic she was, and that she hopes everyone is sitting down for this. And it's absolutely ridiculous. Everyone is truly like the star of their own movie these days.
Yeah.
Like it's so ridiculous how people are wrapped up in themselves. The ego it takes to first off put on a bunch of makeup and then get the proper lighting, and then tell everybody, hey, look, you're going to be really upset about something that only applies to me and my. It's just absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
It's sign of the times. Unfortunately, I don't know.
So it didn't stop there, though. That's
right.
not the only.
Part 2.
Well, here's the funny thing. So that came out. It was just like a couple of weeks ago,
Okay.
a few weeks ago. That came out. That video came out. And like I said, I'm looking through the internet. And I'm like, who the hell is this lady? Why does anybody care? And then I found out that no, the entire internet doesn't care. She just thinks she's something more than she is. So I'm looking at this lady's. I'm like, why? Who is this lady that she thinks she's something? This, we're about to play. Don't play it yet. This is the very next video that she posted after this huge, dramatic, oh my gosh video.
They're back together?
No. This is the next video. Ready?
Right.
Ready with me for Valentine's Day. I need to look so fucking hot tonight. Like, I deserve that. I literally just use a brow pen for my brow.
Anyway, that's the world we live in these days.
Okay.
Anyway, I thought it was interesting. You should make one of those. Well, not a divorce video, but you should make one of those get ready with me videos. Oh. Get ready with me to be on Gun Owners Radio and show everybody how you put on your makeup and do your hair. Or maybe I should. Maybe we both should.
Oh, yeah.
Wouldn't that be nice?
That'd be funny.
All right. All right, everybody. So there you go. Do you have a class coming up?
We do.
All
We
right.
do next month on the 19th. We're doing the concept comes from a trainer, an amazing man, Brian Hill, and he calls it image-based decisional drills. However, we felt that we kind of wanted to come up with a more better descriptive name for it. So we are calling it the split-second decision drills for personal defense. It's a fantastic concept. It really hits home and allows people to kind of put themselves through some scenarios, some mental reps. We do mock play, role play, and it allows you to really kind of put yourself in it as much as we can realistically do through mock play, what you would do in a real life situation. Because if we have all the time in the world, we can sit here and come up with a fantastic solution and say, hey, if I was at the ATM and a man came up behind me with a gun to my back, what would I do? Well, if I have all the time to think about it, I'd probably come up with something decent. But in that moment, what are you instinctively going to do? And it allows us to kind of have some role play in a way that can be productive to kind of help give yourself some mental reps and give yourself almost like a Rolodex of tools that you've kind of put some thought and effort into. And it allows you to kind of see and test yourself, what would your first best decision be in a moment of stress and trauma? So it's a fantastic opportunity.
I think that's awesome.
Yep.
Is he's coming to town?
No,
Brian?
it's me.
It's you.
me.
Oh, very cool.
So I've trained under Brian Hill, but it's going to be me.
That's cool. Okay, so how do people sign up?
So people sign up going to gunownersradio.com. And it's going to be on the 19th of March. It is a cost of $75 to attend. It's going to be held at Cargo in El Cajon. So,
Cool.
Yeah, it'll be a fun day, fun night.
Maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll do a get ready with me while I get ready for a class with Alicia.
See, I'm going to hold you to it. Now you got to do it.
All right, very cool. All right, well, here we go. Gun Owners Radio. Yep. Oh, real quick.
Yes.
Don't forget, we just updated a very important page. It's the most recent. We worked on it. It's the most recent version of it. If you're wondering what's going on when it comes to SB2, where you can and can't carry if you have a CCW, go to sdcgo.org/CCW, and you'll be able to see our latest rendition of where you can and can't, our carry guide, where you can and can't carry. Now, it's not all encompassing. It's just some of the more popular questions that people have. Hey, can I carry here? Hey, am I allowed to carry there? We've covered it. We worked with an attorney. I think we did a really, really good job. So check it out. Go to www.sdcgo.org/CCW. There's actually a lot of resources on that page. How to get your CCW, how to renew it. There are articles written by Joe Dramisi when it comes to how to carry, where to carry, that sort of thing. But that CCW carry guide just updated, so go in, check it out. I'm sure you have questions. SB2 screwed everything up. So go in there, check it out. sdcgo.org/CCW. All right, now let's do the show.
When your rights are on the line and the fight gets real, you need a lawyer who knows the deal. From gun laws to courtrooms, he'll stand by you. John Dillon fights for the red, white, and blue. John Dillon defending your rights, keeping bare arms with truth and might. From GVROs to self-defense calls, Dillon Law Group, he fights for us all. When freedom's under fire, who you gonna call? Dillon Law Group, justice for all. DillonLawGP.com.
Okay, our next guest, I'm really looking forward to. This is going to be an extremely interesting interview. He has a heck of a reputation, and I love watching him in other interviews. He is a lion of law enforcement. His name is Sheriff Mark Lamb from Arizona, from Pinal County, Arizona. How are you, Sheriff?
I'm doing good. Thanks for the intro, too.
Yeah, you bet. Hey, I got to tell you, I really do watch, I like watching you get interviewed, and I'm looking forward to interviewing you because you go into interviews unafraid. You are not a polished, you don't give a bunch of platitudes. Like, you pretty much call it like you see it and aren't afraid to tackle a tough subject, and I appreciate that about you very much.
Well, thank you. And I'll tell you, I've always been that way, but a few years ago, somebody said to me, I'm a big baseball guy, and he said, Sheriff, it doesn't do any good to have an FU fastball if you never throw it. And so I throw a lot of fastballs.
Well, good. All right. Well, perfect. First off, let's just for people that have never heard of you, give us tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're up to politically most recently.
Well, the most important aspect of my life is I'm married 31 years to an amazing woman. I've got 5 children, about ready to have my 7th grandchild, and my 8th is going to be born in October. So we are very, very blessed. I didn't start off in law enforcement. I actually was a businessman and went on one ride along, and I was hooked. I came home that morning and told my wife, honey, I'm going to be a cop. And next thing you know, I was a police officer for a long time, gang and drug detective. Didn't like the direction of the country under the Obama administration. I thought he was driving a wedge between law enforcement and the community. And also, I thought there was a lack of real strong leadership in the profession. And so instead of complaining about it, I decided to run for sheriff. Was fortunate enough to win that race in 2016, took office in 2017, and was for 8 years, I was the sheriff of Pinal County, Arizona, which is between Phoenix and Tucson. It is 5,400 square miles, the size of the state of Connecticut. I had about 600 employees with a budget of 70 million, 65, 70 million. And we were the 3rd largest county of the 15 counties in Arizona, part of the National Sheriff's Association, Western State Sheriff's Association, part of the Major County Sheriff's Association. I served as the president prior to stepping down so I could run for Senate. And I ran for Senate, did not win. So now I'm running for the U.S. Congress here in CD5, which is been held by Andy Biggs, who is now running for governor. And I am running for that open seat and hoping that we can bring some common sense to Washington, D.C. And like you said, I'm unafraid. I'm unapologetic is what it is. I'm unapologetic about my love for God, family, freedom, and the Constitution. And I think Washington needs more cowboy hats and belt buckles. And so I would feel less of a man knowing I had the ability and the time to not go serve my country or to walk away from a fight at such an important point in our history. So I hope that's a quick snapshot of who I am.
That actually tells the story really, really well. So let's get into it. What do you think about your potentially future colleagues in Congress right now?
Not much.
I agree. I mean, I think that people say that a lot throughout history, and it's kind of fun to poke fun at Congress, but there's some legitimate issues and problems on both sides of the aisle. Talk a little bit more about what concerns you when you say not much. Why specifically?
Well, first of all, I've met some really great people, and I think there are great people that have a good heart for service. I don't know. Some of those lose the way when they get there. Of course, I've spent a lot of time going into congressional offices and meeting a lot of them through the work that I've been doing with my clients. I consult for a few clients, so I've spent a lot of time over the last year in the private sector going on to the Hill and meeting with a lot of these congressional members. When they actually came to me and when I say they, I mean my internal people wanted me to run again. And I said, is this really that big of a deal? And they said, yeah, it is. And I go, well, then why does AOC and Jerry Nadler and all these other people, they don't make it feel very special. And they said, no, it's still a very big deal. And I mean, that's not why I'm doing it. I'm doing it because I do think we need people that are willing to go back there, real Americans. And we lack that on both sides. There's a lot of people that just get washed away into the political thing. They don't want to lose elections. And so they play it safe, or they vote for bills that really aren't that good. They don't take the time to read them, and they're not really representing the American people to the best. And you can see that on both sides of the party. And really, you don't have to look any further than a lot of the votes that are cast and who has the the guts to stand up for what they truly believe, regardless of how uncomfortable it may get and the consequences that may follow being on the unpopular side. But I'm not going to go into detail on all the people, but suffice to say, we need better people in Washington.
We do,
DC.
and I guess we don't need to do it. Doesn't have to be a gossip session here, Sheriff.
Yeah.
But I think that really what I'm getting at is and what you just pointed out is, I think more so than at any time in my lifetime and maybe in history, there seems to be an enormous talent gap between some of the folks that are serving in Congress. I mean, you do have some really, respectable people that are doing a great job and they have a fantastic resume, and but then there's some really just strange choices that voters have made when it comes to who they elect in Congress. And like I said, we don't want to sit here and talk crap about individuals, but what do you chalk that up for? Why in 2026 is there such an enormous talent gap between some of the people that are serving in Congress and others? What does it say about our culture and society and politics?
Well, I'm glad you added that last piece to the question, because I was just going to say it's really the lack of education for Americans nowadays. I could probably line up 10 Americans on the street, and I'd be surprised if any of them could really name. They probably wouldn't know the difference between the Declaration of Independence or the Constitution, or what are the Articles, what are the Bill of Rights, what are the three branches of government. And a lot of it has become a popularity contest and who can spend the most money. And what we've seen now is groups getting involved, major PACs and huge money people, Act Blue, all these groups that dump money into politics so that they can get people in there that really are malleable to be able to get them to push their agendas as opposed to the agenda of the people that they were voted in for by and represent. And I think that we've seen that all across the country on both sides of the party. I will tell you, I've run for office as sheriff. It's not easy. And when you get there, there's this natural inclination to say, I want to hold on to what I just worked so hard to get. But in reality, that's a poison drip. If you don't stay true to who you are and why you got elected in the first place, ultimately you're being disingenuine. It's easy for an incumbent to keep winning, but a lot of these folks, they move to the wherever they need to be so that they can continue to bring in the money from the donors and they can continue to win elections, as opposed to just doing what is right and letting the people decide if they want to keep you or not. And really, I've always had that mentality of I'm going to do and say what I think is right. And if it's the right job and if it's what the people want, they'll vote me back in. If it's not, then I'll be gone. But I can't do it because the donor class wants me to vote a certain way, or wants me to be on the side of a certain issue, or to fight for a foreign country that really, I don't understand why we're doing that in this country. We're spending a lot of money and a lot of time and a lot of effort in other people's countries when we have our own problems to fix here in our country. We have fraud that's off the charts, and yet we have people in Congress that still are not really reining that in. And so I hope to be part of the solution. I'm not naive enough to sit here and tell you I'm going to fix it when I get there, like a lot of politicians do. But I'm going to do the best I can. I'm certainly going to fight for the American people, and I think that's what they expect of me.
Okay, and you're running as a Republican.
Yes, sir.
What does it mean to be a Republican in 2026? What is that? If you identify as a Republican, if you're say, hey, I'm a Republican, I'm running as a Republican, what should people conclude about you being a Republican in 2026?
Well, look, I think the Republican Party always was a traditional party, a conservative party. I think both parties has failed the American people, but the Republican Party certainly espouses more of my ideals. I would really a constitutional conservative. I believe in what this country was built on. I think our founding fathers had not only the foresight, but they had God's stamp of approval on that the Constitution that they came together and wrote and protected God-given freedoms for us. And I think we need men and women that are more focused on that. And that's really what I've been. I am a registered Republican, but I'm a conservative. I believe in God, family, freedom, and the Constitution. I think that the way back in this country is to go back to God and back to the Constitution. And I don't think I think it's as simple as that. If we can do those things, that we will start to begin to save this country. But as long as we continue to veer away from the faith that built this country, and as long as we veer away from the Constitution, we're going to be in big trouble. This country was built a specific way, and with morality in mind, and it was made for a moral people, as Thomas Jefferson said, and anything else will not work. And so I think that we've got to get back to that. We're in a two-party system. And what I've seen from the Democrat Party is more of a shift towards socialism and communism. And if you think I'm being too far out there, look no further than New York, where they elected and happily and rejoiced in it. They elected a self-avowed socialist in Mondami. You've got Seattle, where they elected Katie Wilson. You've got Spanberger, who really kind of hoodwinked the people in Virginia, and now she's gone totally with a socialist agenda. And I think this is the game plan moving forward. You're seeing more and more Democrat seats going towards a very, very far left radical socialist ideology. And that's dangerous for America.
So where is there a particular piece of the platform? Where do you part ways with the Republican Party? Is there something that you particularly disagree with as far as their platform goes?
Look, I'm a minimal government guy. I think what we should be doing as a Republican Party and as conservatives is we should be paring down government, not adding to it, not continuing to fund things when we're already 37, 38, 39 trillion dollars in debt. The big, beautiful bill had a lot of great things for businesses. I'm a business owner now as well. There was a lot of great tax incentives. But look, our tax code is far too egregious as it is. Our founding fathers would lose their minds over the fact that we've tolerated what we're now up to, probably well into the 30 to 50% when you add in your sales tax, your property tax, your income tax, and especially the more you make, the more you're penalized in this country. And I just don't think that the founding fathers wanted that. And I would like to see the Republican Party get back to saying, look, we got to make some tough decisions, because every day that we continue down this path of bad spending, we are eating the bread of our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren. And we've got to now start to say, we have to make tough decisions to fix these things, to remove the fraud. Right now, they're saying there's about $115 million worth of fraud per day in this country. And yet we haven't seen the changes on that economic piece of it. I hope that we get there, but I think we can do a lot more. We should eliminate government, the Department of Education. Look, that's red meat. That's low-hanging fruit. You can say that and people will be like, yes, get rid of them. But there's a lot more agencies that we really don't need, which are really costing the American people a lot. And I'm not a big fan of the IRS and the way the tax code is. I think it needs to be scrapped, and really, I think we can find other ways that we fund this country, but we are only funding it because we have all these government programs in place that never go away. And people want to look to government to the answer to their problems, when government is oftentimes the causation of the problems that we face every day in this country.
So let me ask you something. If you, let's say you win and there is a bill that's proposed, you're in office your first week, let's say. There's a bill that's proposed and you are completely opposed to it. You think this thing is a horrible bill. It's a bad idea, and it's something significant. It's not just, hey, let's change the name of a bridge or whatever. It's a significant bill. And somehow you're able to determine through a very accurate survey that 85% of your constituents want you to vote for this bill. And let's say that there's no question. You know for a fact that 85% of your constituents want you to vote for this bill. But you are completely and totally opposed to this bill. You think it's horrible in a significant way. As an elected member of Congress, what do? Do you follow the wishes of the voters, or do the voters elect you to make decisions based on your own principles and world experience? How do you make that decision?
Well, first of all, I'm in a district, and let me kind of explain that, because this is a very different what if. I'm in a district where it's predominantly Republican. It's a plus 20, 15 to 20 district. So typically what I think is right is going to be in line with the majority of the people in my district. So I would be really surprised if I encountered a bill like that. Let's say the Save America Act, which I'm completely for, which is basically saying you have to have ID to vote. 80-something% of the American people are for that. And I think that makes those decisions a lot easier when you know 85%. I think what makes it more difficult is when you're at a 50-50 and now all of a sudden half of your population doesn't want it, half does. I think that's where the people have to rely on the fact that they voted you in. They know what you're about. This is why I think it's so important that you're authentic and honest with all of your voters, so they know exactly who you are and how you'll vote when those votes come up. And I think that's what I've worked really hard to do, so that when those votes that are difficult and they do not follow the Constitution and they do infringe on your freedoms, I'm not going to be for it. And even if the people have been hoodwinked into believing 70-80% of those people believing that this is something that's good for them, I've been very honest and upfront that I'm not for bigger government. I am not for restricting or removing your rights or impeding on those and infringing on them in any way. So I think that they have to know that. Who gets in trouble are the people who are not genuine to their voters. And then they get there and then they have to vote based on who's their biggest donor and who's pushing them the hardest. But I'm fortunate to be in an area where I don't know that I will encounter one where I'm on one page and the rest of my voters are 85% the other way. It's just not the type of district I'm in. And I think it more realistic, like I said, is you're going to run into these 50-50 votes. But they've got to know that you're there for the Constitution. I've been very upfront and honest with my voters. And when they vote me in, they need to know that they're voting somebody that's going to be a freedom hawk, somebody that wants to make America, push America back to where we were just this a great country where freedom abounded. And I think that's what most Americans want. And they're hungry for it right now. So, look, I'm always going to side with the Constitution and freedom, and I guess that's probably the end answer to that. And if that means that you're not completely in line, then they'll have to make a decision when it comes time to vote for me again.
Interesting. Okay, excellent answer.
So when you're using it on your firearms, because it takes about 3 cleanings, so I like to say it's a clean shoot process, much like seasoning a cast iron skillet. So you're going to field strip your firearm, break it down, and then you're going to put our product on piece by piece by piece, covering the entire firearm. Then you're going to take the barrel, you're going to clean the barrel inside of that, and then you come back and you wipe it all off, and you're done. It's that easy. Remember, seal one and done.
Okay, so I work with Second Amendment advocates. I run a Second Amendment advocacy organization. Of course, Gun Owners Radio, we talk a lot about the Second Amendment. There's definitely an interesting dynamic when it comes to folks that are Second Amendment advocates, gun owners that really care about their Second Amendment rights, and the law enforcement community. I think that critics or skeptical folks that are Second Amendment advocates say, hey, why would I vote for a cop? That's the guy that's going to come and take my guns when they pass these horrible laws. What would you say to that person? What would you say to a Second Amendment advocate who is skeptical of law enforcement and, not just when it comes to voting, but in general? How would you address that skepticism or the difference between the two communities?
Look, I hate snakes, okay? So when I walk out in the desert, I am always very aware of it, but I never see them. Here's what I would say to that. As I have never encountered a situation where somebody actually had their guns taken away by a cop for no reason or for a violation of their Second Amendment. I would say that they should be more concerned about who they're voting for, because it is the politicians, especially on a state level, not as much on a federal level, while they are trying to infringe on that. It is the state level where they've really gone away with it. And cops tend to be labeled as the bad guy, as if we're going to show up and take your guns. That would have never, ever have happened in Pinal County. Never in a million years as long as I was the sheriff. So that was never going to happen. And I don't know too many law enforcement guys that are sheriffs that would. Police chiefs, maybe.
There is a difference between, talk a little bit about that. There definitely is a difference between a sheriff or sheriff's deputy and police chief. Talk a little bit about what's the difference. Why are police chiefs or police departments different from sheriffs and sheriff's offices?
Well, I want to just put a pin in that last question. The pin is your politicians are more dangerous to your gun rights than the law enforcement is. They want to label us as the guy that's the bad guy, but in reality, it's the politicians that we elect that keep trying to infringe on our gun rights. Now, as far as police and sheriffs, the sheriff is elected by the people. And he is elected. It's a constitutional, state constitutional position. Our job is to defend, like I used to always tell people, I'm not a politician. I'm your county sheriff. My job is to protect you from the bad guys and protect you from government overreach, which I did consistently, especially during COVID and anything that has to do with Second Amendment. Anything constitutional. I'm a stalwart defender of. Then you take police chiefs. Police chiefs, they get a good salary. Well, they work for the mayor and the city council. So a lot of times, basically, their marching orders, their vision, what they're going to do is not set by the people. It's set by a small group of politicians who have a political agenda. And it's very dangerous because those political agendas in some of our cities that have gotten bigger and bigger become more liberal and liberal. They want more government overreach. They want more government control. They want to label guns as dangerous when in reality it's a mental health issue, which they continue to feed. And what we should be focused on, I'm a much bigger supporter of the sheriff's office as opposed to police departments, because sheriffs work for the people, police departments work for mayors and work for city councils. They are the ones that set the agenda or the vision for whatever that agency does.
It's a really interesting distinction. I think it was very well put. I think we also just saw a difference in culture between Arizona and California. California, you don't find a lot of law enforcement that are vocally and openly for protecting the Second Amendment. I think that there's so many, first off, there's so many anti-gun laws here. There are so many people who get arrested for laws that don't exist in any other state, that has led to that skepticism between Second Amendment supporters and law enforcement, where I don't think you see that same type of culture in Arizona. That being said, Arizona's culture has changed significantly. You guys have, for your senator, Mark Kelly, is as anti-gun as they come. Talk a little bit about what's going on with Arizona. I mean, Arizona used to be the land of milk and honey for gun owners here in California. They couldn't wait to get across the river into free America. And although Arizona is electing some blatant anti-gun people lately.
Well, we are still very pro-gun. Nothing has changed on our gun laws because the legislature, the state legislature, state senate have continued to be Republican. Although by a thin margin, we continue to be Republican. The governor, Democrat, she obviously not pro-gun, would like to see more big government. She can do very little without she can pass executive orders, but they don't mean anything. There's no teeth to them. We found that out which I already knew, but we really saw that play out in COVID. And then your congressional members, we have far more congressional members that are Republican. We lost those 2 seats. Honestly, we're a very independent state. We have a third independents, a third Republicans, and the least group is the Democrats in the state of Arizona. One of the challenges we face is we did the stupid mail-out ballots. I mean, mail-out ballots has changed elections. If you go back to where people have to show up to vote, not only is this a red state, California is probably a red state, because a lot of people won't show up to vote if you made it a lot harder. But what we've done is open it up for fraud by sending all these ballots out to everybody and allowing them to vote for a month before the election, and allows a lot of people to go out and harvest those ballots, or at least not necessarily the harvest probably isn't the right word. It's encourage people to vote, I guess is the way they put it out here. So I think this is our year to go shift back, hopefully back to red as a governor. And then we're going to have an opportunity to beat Kelly in a couple years when he is up for election. And hopefully in 2030, we're able to get that seat that Gallego won, that I felt like I would have won. Had I won the primary, I think we were running a really strong race. You can be Republican, you can be conservative in Arizona. You can't be crazy in Arizona. That's what the voters don't want. And that is what's hurt us in the last several years. We've been broken and infighting as a party, and we've got to come back around to where we're doing politics by addition. We make sure we capture all the Republican vote and we capture a lot of the independent vote. And that's how you win in Arizona. And we have lost our way a little bit, but we're going to get it back. But you're right. There are a few people that are very anti-gun, but at the same time, they are not making decisions for the state, and our state gun laws continue to be the best in the country.
See, that's another cultural difference. You can't be crazy in Arizona. In California, parts of California, they prefer.
That's a prereq. Yeah.
It's a prereq,
Yeah.
right? If you're running for office in LA or San Francisco and you're not crazy, what are you doing? Like, you're not, you have no chance of winning. So, anyway.
Yeah, I've seen some of the candidates. I know.
So let's talk. One of the things that has come up this year in 2026, being a Second Amendment or a show and talking about, different defensive gun uses and that sort of thing. We talked a lot about ICE. We talked a lot about federal law enforcement, not so much what they're doing as far as illegal immigration, but the way they're operating, because there are a couple, of course, high-profile shootings. And we analyzed it, talked about it, tried to, separate myth from reality and go over it. One of the things I definitely tried to do was look at both of these for what they were, which were a defensive gun use. Now, did they do everything correctly? Did they not do everything correctly? That's what we discussed, rather than go into, is ICE and Border Patrol, are they doing the right thing? Are these operations from a law enforcement perspective, are they the right thing to do? We didn't really go into that. We're a Second Amendment organization. That's our Second Amendment show. That's what we wanted to talk about. So we treated it like a defensive gun use. Being law enforcement, being a professional law enforcement officer and running for federal office, talk to us about ICE. What do you think about the job they're doing? What do you think about the complaints against them? What do you think about the media coverage? Let's talk about it.
Well, first of all, ICE is doing the job that Congress and Senate have set forth. They're the ones that set the rules. So anybody out there fighting against ICE, it doesn't make sense. They should go to their congressional offices or Senate offices, because those are the people that pass the laws. It is illegal to come into this country without permission. You cannot come into this country illegally. That is a crime, and you should be removed for it. And then on top of that, they're removing some of these really bad criminals. You should go to dhs.gov/wow, worst of the worst, and look at some of the people that they're arresting in Minnesota. Now, this is happening all across the country, but you don't hear about it all across the country because it works. Where it doesn't work is where people who have an agenda pay. Majority of these people are paid protesters. Even Renee, not to disparage her because she lost her life, she came from a different location. This is what she did. And she came out there and found herself in a place where she shouldn't have been. And ultimately it cost her life. These folks are pawns in a game of people who pay agitators to go out and cause problems in a community and create issues for ICE. It's really more about President Trump is who they're really against. But ICE has been doing this job. They did it they removed far more people under Obama, Clinton, Bush, and Biden. They removed far more people, but you didn't have the paid agitators going out and creating chaos. Go back 4 years, 2020, 6 years. In 2020, we had COVID, we had BLM, we had Antifa. They did the same thing. It was the same playbook. They created chaos on the streets of America to affect the election. They're doing that again with ICE. ICE is doing their job. Now, we can question whether or not, let's see what their training tactics and all this junk is. That's what people want to start to split hairs on. But the reality is we're removing people every day all across this country, and you don't hear about any of it. Why? Because in most places it works. But in those places where they know they can activate these activists, not only paid, but the people who are being misled by and not being given all the right information, then you're going to have a problem. But ICE is doing the job that they were set forth to do by Congress and by Senate. And not only that, The people voted for President Trump large in part because of the border issue and wanted these people removed. Even polls now, polls still say they don't want people in this country illegally. They may be a little bit more uncomfortable with ICE only because the media has really put it out there and made people uncomfortable. 2 people lost their lives. That's always a serious matter. Border Patrol, they do their job every day. One of the challenges you face with ICE is when you're doing a big operation in, let's say, Minneapolis, when the local law enforcement does not help and they can't call local law enforcement to help them, then what you have to do is bring in more agents. And then you bring in agents from BOP, Bureau of Prisons. You bring other agents that maybe aren't quite as used to being on the streets of America, let's say like our police would. But if the police would help, you don't see that in any other places. I promise you, it's going on all over the place. It's going on in the county I was the sheriff in. We don't have any issues because we work hand in hand with our federal partners because they're enforcing the law that's on the books.
That does seem to be a legitimate issue, that the fact that local law enforcement has in some of these places said, hey, we're not going to cooperate with ICE. And I think a lot of people...
Well, can I just... I got to stop. Sure. Because this is where it falls on law enforcement, but it's not us. It's your politicians going past laws that say local law enforcement cannot work with your federal partners. What that does is it puts law enforcement in a really weird place. Either you break a state law by assisting federal law enforcement when they need help, or you are, or you're working with ICE and you're catching hell on that end. It's the politicians that create these problems. And I'm not here to say, I'm not going to just be a homer and defend every little action that happens on law enforcement because I think, I'm a minimal government guy. But at the same time, even that, as you started to ask that question, I don't mean this I'm not trying to be antagonistic. That question immediately went towards law enforcement. And these politicians who are the ones that are creating these problems continue to get a pass. And then they get voted back in when they're the ones that put law enforcement in a giant predicament in the first place.
No, it's legitimate. So it was the politicians in Minneapolis that decided, hey, we're not going to allow law enforcement to assist ICE. It wasn't law enforcement's decision to make. It was the people who tell law enforcement what to do. But I think that a lot of folks who support the idea of not allowing local law enforcement to assist ICE, they think that by assist ICE, that the local PD is going to go out and arrest, illegal immigrants or whatever. But the reality is the support role has to do with crowd control and responding to, people that are, harassing them or whatever, traffic, that sort of thing. And what we saw in both the Pretty and the Good case was that there was no support for ICE as far as local law enforcement saying, hey, stay back, or hey, don't do this, don't do that, that sort of thing. Am I right on about that? I mean, it seems like if the local PD were allowed to assist, they wouldn't be assisting with deporting illegal immigrants. They'd be assisting with crowd control and making sure that things remained orderly and didn't escalate to the point where there had to be a defensive gun use situation.
The government told them they needed to stand down. Their administration said, we're not going to go and help them. But I want to take it and remove ICE from this. A group of Americans is in fear for their lives and their safety because a large group of protesters, angry, screaming, blowing whistles at them, blocking them in traffic. These people are doing this, so they call local law enforcement only to have local law enforcement in all essence say, pound sand, we're not responding. Take out the ICE piece of that. That is so wrong on a law enforcement end that you would not come to the aid of an American who calls for service. So shame on them for not being willing to do it. But you are right. The majority of law enforcement in this country is not out on the streets rounding people up. That is a fallacy. That is what the media would have you believe. Well, it is happening in a few communities that are okay with it. The majority of communities across this country, what they're talking about is what Tom Homan came in and said, He said, look, if you allow us to come pick these folks up at the jail that we're looking for, that have these homicide, aggravated robbery, sexual assault of a minor, go to that website I told you about. You'll see the type of people that they were looking for. Only to have Americans impeding them, activists impeding them, law enforcement not supporting them, when they could have just picked them up at the jail and saved us a lot of issues and not needed all the federal officers on the streets out there. We were a 287G jail. What we did is we worked with the 280 with ICE. So when somebody came into our jail who was in this country illegally and committed a state crime, then we would reach out to ICE and say, we've got this guy, we think he's here illegally. They would do their process and they would say, yes, he's here illegally. We want to put a detainer on him. So when he's done with his state issue, we'll come pick him up. And that's really all that they were asking for. And that's what would solve a lot of these issues. But these these really liberal blue cities and states have said, we're going to pass laws that say you can't do that. You can't notify ICE of somebody that's hearing this illegally, which, by the way, I think is illegal. The government, the USC Title 8, 1324 says you cannot shield, harbor, or conceal somebody you know to be in this country illegally. So when the government says we're going to not let you turn these folks over, that's shielding, that's concealing, that's harboring. Those are all crimes, and I think that we should start holding some of these politicians accountable, because I think they're absolutely breaking federal law with some of these orders and some of these direction and some of the laws that they've passed in some of these states and cities.
That's interesting. You know, I've heard some of the complaints are just kind of childish. Some of them are legit, but some of them are childish. When I hear people complain about ICE or, federal agents covering their face or wearing a mask and how horrible and evil that is so ridiculously childish. There's no difference between what they're doing with a mask on or not having a mask on. And they're saying, well, gee, just anybody can cover their face. And then, impersonating a federal officer or any officer is already illegal. It doesn't matter if there's a mask involved or not. It's absolutely ridiculous. So the lifeblood of every organization is membership. We absolutely need membership. And you as a Second Amendment activist want to be involved. You want to help make things better. And we have a way for you to be involved, get involved, and stay involved. Look at our volunteer page. If you go to sdcgo.org/volunteer, we keep it up to date, and there's always an opportunity for you to get more involved. Our bread and butter are our shooting socials, where we teach people how to shoot. They've never had a shooting experience. Maybe they're brand new to shooting and they want to have a first-time shooting experience. You can help us do that. Or if you want to help spread the word, we have tabletops at different gun shops, at different events, and you can volunteer to tell people more about the Second Amendment, more about how to get a CCW, or more about being a member of an organization like SDCGO. The good news is it's super easy. We'll help train you. We'll help you get involved. We'll give you the opportunity to do good things.
If you don't have the time to volunteer, there's another way that you can help too. We are always looking for folks to donate. And if you want to pledge $5,000 in this next year, we will have you on our show as a guest host. So come join us in the studio. We would love to have you here for one episode, and that is for a price of $5,000.
$5,000 donation to San Diego County Gun Owners gets you a guest host with me and Dakota and Alicia, and you get to talk about whatever you want to talk about, and you get to do whatever you want to right here on Gun Owners Radio. So thank you so much. Whatever you do, just do a little bit more than you did last year and help us defend and preserve the Second Amendment right here in your backyard. However, I've said before that one of the most important American accomplishments, one of the things that doesn't get talked about nearly enough, that makes us very unique from other countries, particularly when we started, was the concept of posse comitatus, meaning that if you are military, you can't be law enforcement. And if you look back at when we fought the American Revolution, the Redcoats weren't an invading force or even an occupying force. they were federal law enforcement, is really what they were acting as. If you look at the Boston Massacre, they were enforcing laws, and they were enforcing laws on behalf of the king. So I think it's really, really important, posse comitatus, not having the military be an arm of law enforcement or enforce laws. However, if you just take law enforcement, and turn them into essentially a military, then I think we've taken a lot of the meaning out of posse comitatus. Now, you've talked a lot about how you're a small government guy, and I agree with you, man. I am too. I've talked about how the ATF needs to be abolished, because they're abusing the law. So given all of that, how would you address if someone said, hey, look, you're a small government person, posse comitatus is extremely important. How do you reconcile that? How do you point to ICE and say, hey, you know what they're doing is totally fine. It's a good thing. It's helpful, but also, I mean, they really are acting as a federal military, and kind of skirting or at least taking some of the meaning out of posse comitatus.
Yeah, I gotta disagree on that, because I think that the media has misled people to believe that the use falls under posse comitatus, especially when you're using the National Guard, when it really doesn't. It falls under the Insurrection Act of 1807. I know very well what posse comitatus is. I used it. I had a very healthy and robust posse, civilian posse. I had posse guys who were volunteers who we put through training, who would go out and help our deputies respond to calls, traffic. They had a take-home car. They had uniforms. I know very well that posse comitatus, the media and the courts would have you believe that that's what they were using when they were bringing in, let's say, the National Guard into Washington, D.C., which is a totally different thing because it's not a state. It is a federal territory. It's a federal area. But the even moving them into Memphis and other places, the Insurrection Act is very clear that if you have an insurrection or you have civil disobedience, that is absolutely well within those rights to be able to use that. I don't love it. I wish those cities would take care of their cities. That's what I wish they would do. But what we have seen over and over again, I'm going to go back to the political, because people want to continue to cast blame on all these other things, when in reality, the politicians create problems and then they blame everybody else when the problem festers and becomes a major issue, and they want to pretend like they didn't have responsibility in it when they actually created it. These politicians, with the reduction of police, with the defunding of police, with all of this narrative they push against police, they have really created harbors and sanctuaries for criminals and illegals in their cities. And then they don't like the consequences when crime increases, when the people start moving away because they don't want to be living in a city like that. And then you have the president who says, I hope you clean it up. And then they don't clean it up. And you use what is in the what we have in our government, which is the Insurrection Act. They want you to believe that he was using the Posse Comitatus Act, and that's not what was being used. But I'm all for the Posse Comitatus Act. Now, I do agree. I think we have far too many government law enforcement agencies, 100%. I'd love to see those pared down and we start to take that funding and give it off to our local and state and federal, our state and local and county law enforcement, and let us be. And the federal government should be much smaller and used as a support network for interstate commerce crimes where we need help going to another state to solve a crime. That's what it was originally intended for. The Founding Fathers and the Constitution, beyond the Constitution, shortly after, they had the U.S. Marshals. Everything else beyond that was a construct of government and politicians throughout the years. And there are so many federal law enforcement agencies, it's ridiculous. Try go look for a job. There's countless places you can find a police job in federal law enforcement. So yeah, on the same token, I think that there should be some changes there as well. Immigration has been an issue that the left wants to hijack and say, we tried to fix this issue back in 2010 in Arizona. We passed SB 1070, which would have made it a crime to be in the state of Arizona illegally, or in the country illegally if you're in the state of Arizona. It would have made it an Arizona crime. Well, they lost their minds and they challenged it, and it went all the way to the Ninth Circuit. And the Ninth Circuit ruled that that was a federal government issue. Well, now the script is flipped, and now the federal government is dealing with an issue that they fought so hard to say was a federal government issue, and now they don't like that the federal government is dealing with the issue. The states, we tried to take that on ourselves and help and be able to protect our own state, and they fought against it. And now it's the role has been reversed, the script has been flipped on them, and they don't like that the federal government is doing the job that they wanted to define the federal government as their job. So it always goes back to politics.
Yeah.
I know it always goes back to it.
It does. And speaking of politics, I know you're super focused on your race, but the first time I became aware of you was we had an open seat for sheriff, and a couple people were running, and your name kept popping up. Well, who did Sheriff Lamb endorse? And I thought, who is this guy? Why do people some guy in Arizona? Like, I'm trying to get a sheriff elected. What are we talking about here? Anyway, I was very impressed with your influence over voters, and we have a governor's race in California. I don't know if you're aware. There's no incumbent, and one of the guys who is running is a sheriff of Riverside County, Chad Bianco, and then another guy who's running as a Republican is Steve Hilton, who, of course, you probably know from Fox News. I'm curious, have you made a decision on who you're going to endorse in that race, or if you're going to endorse?
100% support Chad Bianco. I know Chad Bianco very well. I went to a constitutional training, spent a week with him learning and really diving into, how this country was built and the Constitution, the founding fathers, and I've got to know him and his wife very well. I mean, this is a man who loves this country. And look, you're going to get Republicans that are going to fight and dog on each other, and this is why you shouldn't vote. I'm going to tell you right now, you guys are blessed to have that guy running for your state, and you'd be lucky to get him as a governor. And I think he will serve you guys well. He is a good man. He understands the importance of the rule of law. He understands, I think, what it will take to get California back to where it needs to be. So yeah, I'm a big fan of Chad Bianco's. Look, I've met Steve Hilton a couple times. This is nothing against him. I just don't know him that well. I do know Chad Bianco and consider him a friend, and I'm a big supporter of his.
Awesome. Well, very cool, Sheriff. What else? Do we have any other questions for him?
I just have two things. One statement, one question.
Go for it.
One, so Sheriff Lamb, I just want, first of all, I think you nailed it on the head at the very beginning of this interview when you made the statement about the youth of today really don't understand government, right? And in kind of all the things you talked about through this whole entire interview, you've really kind of laid out all of those things that if the people understood, I think it would lead to a different circumstance of now. The government structure is so important, right? Far too many people don't understand government. They don't understand structure, criminal justice, all those things. I think that's powerful, and I think that you nailed it. And my question, this is my question. Have you ever thought about moving to California?
Would this be sad if I said no?
It's refreshing to hear what you have to say.
Well, look, I wish the best way that I can serve California is by representing you in Congress in Arizona. This is what other people don't understand about civics as well is, yes, I'm running for CD5 in Arizona, which is the East Valley. We have 9 districts in Arizona. I am running for one of those districts. However, my vote in Congress will not only impact my district and my state, my vote will equally impact you in California. This is why it's important that you support candidates all across the country that are good American candidates, because their vote matters. Who you guys elect in California affects us in Arizona. It affects people in Maryland and Florida and Texas. What I do when I vote, those votes will have an impact on everybody in this country. And that's not lost on me. And I hope that Americans understand that you're not just picking a congressional member for your district. You are picking somebody that is going to make votes that will affect the entire country. And I think that we got to do a better job of sending people back that understand the importance of all that my vote will affect you, and that truly have a passion for what this country was built on. If not, it's going to change. This is a republic. Our Article 4, Section 4, when it talks about that the federal government's role is to protect us from an invasion, the very next line is to ensure a republic form of government to all of the states. And we need to make sure that we elect people that understand we are a republic and we have a responsibility to fight for that republic and protect the freedoms that God gave us, that our founding fathers had the foresight to protect under the Constitution. And I hope to be that representative, not just for Arizona, but I hope that people of California will say, hey, at least we got Sheriff Lamb there that's fighting for us.
Well, if you refuse to move out here, maybe maybe at least we can talk you into coming out and visiting. I really, truly, I'm just was blown away by how many San Diegans respected your endorsement and cared about who you were endorsing. So maybe we can have you come out here after the election and do an event, a meet and greet, or maybe a shoot or something, and maybe we could get Sheriff Bianco down here and do like some kind of shooting competition or something like that, and you can meet the San Diegans, and I don't know, we'll figure it out. But we'd love to have you as a guest. Yeah, right.
Yep.
Who do you think would win?
I think California, much to the public, California gets it's the biggest state. It's a huge economy. But you guys have also recently had some really bad politicians and passed some really terrible laws that I think are in most cases go against the Constitution, certainly in some cases. And unfortunately, most people don't realize, and I've spent a lot of time speaking in different places in California, and the reality is it is a very conservative and common sense state as long as you get outside of the cities. The major cities are really dictating how the politics are in that state, but it's not indicative of what the rest of the state looks like or feels like when you go there. And so I just feel for those Californians like yourselves who are common sense, who just want to live their life and enjoy life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness with minimal government interference, and not have the state waste our tax dollars or give them to people that don't deserve it, or to give them to people that are not even American citizens. And I don't think that's too much to ask from our government. And we've got to get people that understand that. And so this is my way of saying that California has a lot of great people and a really lot of patriots who refuse to give up on their own state. And I admire that beyond belief. I think it is very admirable that they would stay in the fight. And it keeps me from having to move out there as well.
There you go. I got to tell you, thanks for saying that, Sheriff. There really, truly are a lot of hardworking patriots who are working so hard on restoring our Second Amendment rights here in California, preventing them from spreading to other states. And I wish that more folks in other states would recognize the hard work that the patriots are doing here. But anyway, we'd love to see you in San Diego. But last question: if we do put you up against Chad Bianco, which one? Who's going to win? If it's a shooting competition, which one of you is going to outshoot the other?
Oh, shooting competition? I don't know. Look, Chad, I think is probably a SWAT guy. I was a SWAT guy. Both of us shooting is a perishable skill, and both of us spent a lot of time campaigning. So we both probably are a little rusty.
All right, well,
a little rustier than we'd like to be, but I will promise you I can still shoot, though.
We might have to do that. Might have to place bets and do that. Not place bets. That's illegal. But anyway, all right. Well, Sheriff, thank you so much for joining us. Truly appreciate the conversation, and thank you. Thanks for taking the time, and good luck on your campaign. And I hope we see you cross the victory line in November.
Well, thank you. And if anybody wants to come support, they can do it at marklamb.us. You can donate no matter what state you live in, as long as you're an American citizen and not a business. You can donate to my campaign. I would love to have any support if you agree with some of the stuff I've said today. Also, just if you want to just follow me, you can go to my YouTube channel at Real American Sheriff, and I break down body cams. And then also at Lamb Investigations, I've started a new true crime channel where I have my wife and we break down true crime cases. So come support me there as well.
Hey, don't you have a deputy that has
Frank.
Yeah.
Frank.
Is that your guy?
Yes. Yeah.
That's my guy. And so
Yep.
on Fridays, we do at Real American Sheriff, we do Friday with Frank. So we eat French fries and review French fries and body cam videos with Frank. So
he's the guy, and I'm talking about. You see him, you see him interact with other people, pulls people over. He's actually very respectful. I've seen video of him, and whoever he's talking to, whoever he's pulled over has some weird outlandish thing to say, and he's always very, very respectful and always, assertive. He certainly can't walk over the guy, but that's your guy, huh?
That's our guy. So I always explain him as he's condescendingly polite.
Yes.
Condescendingly replied. I think that's probably,
Yep.
that should
He's very knowledgeable. He is a stoic. He doesn't lose his composure. He doesn't get walked on. He's very fair, and he's just a good man. There's a lot of people who get pulled over, they get tickets, and they still want to have a picture with him when they're all said and done. For our community, it was really great. I used to do a lot of videos, and then when I ran for the Senate, he kind of Fridays with Frank became a big thing, and so he took it, and he was very. Look, no cop wants a camera with him all the time and watching everything they do, and then us putting it out on social media only for him to be scrutinized by people who are not, fans of police or what we do. And so, but he was willing to do it, and I think it's been good for the profession. And there's a lot of cops across this country that tell me all the time, "Hey, man, thank you for doing those videos. We wish we could do it." So we tried to just showcase law enforcement the way it should be done, and we believe in protecting people's constitutional rights and holding criminals accountable. And I think that's what Americans expect from their law enforcement, especially from their sheriff. So.
excellent. Well, thank you. So marklamb.us. You want to?
marklamb.us.
There you go. Okay, fantastic. Thanks, Sheriff. Appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you. Back.
All right, and segment.
Thank you, Sheriff. That was awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How do you think that went?
Oh, good. Look,
Good.
I learned a long time ago, you just say what you say, and what happens? What's the worst? They don't vote for me and I go on with my life? Sounds great.
It's refreshing to hear.
Who was we had about 10 years ago, we had a sheriff. I don't think it wasn't Pinal. It was there's two counties there that sound real familiar.
Well, there's Joe. You had Joe Arpaio.
With
Yeah.
Sheriff
Arpaio.
Arpaio was.
No, there was a younger guy, bald guy. It was either
Babu.
Paul Babu. What happened to that guy?
I replaced Babu.
Oh, okay. All right.
So he
Westbrook
ran.
County.
He ran for Congress and he didn't win. I won. I became the sheriff and followed him.
Interesting. Okay. Well, cool.
You know what's pretty funny is coming out. I didn't know you were going to be on today because I didn't look, but it was pretty funny as I thought of you as I was
Thanks
driving
for reading
in.
the email, Alicia.
I know, but what's funny as I actually thought about you as I was driving in because slow people in the fast lane.
Oh yeah, that's my big thing.
I know.
I can't stand left lane campers.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my big thing.
I was like, we need him over here.
Well, Sheriff, thank you.
Yeah,
for
well, I
taking the time,
appreciate
man.
it.
Thank you for all you do. Yeah, really appreciate it.
Thank
I
you
like that
guys,
interview a
and
lot.
thanks for what you do for the Second Amendment too. We're diehard gun people here in our house, so
That's cool.
yeah.
That's cool.
All right,
Thanks,
have a
Sheriff.
good one, guys.
Take care.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Okay, it's an election year, and in San Diego, there's a local political shuffle that's going around. First off, we're going to have San Diego County Governor is going to have our voter guide out probably the first week of March. There is a primary in June, and of course, the general election is in November. And like every other election, it's extremely important. The June election, however, there's some state elections that people need to be aware of. Most of the cities, though, 18 city councils in Orange, I think there are 26 city councils. Most of the city councils do not have a primary. Most of the city councils, it goes right to November. And of course, the big election news this time around in the primary is what's going to happen for the governor's seat. And we're actually going to interview. You're going to see an interview. I've already done the interview, and you'll see the interview next week of Sheriff Chad Bianco interviewed Steve Hilton. I doubt we're going to get any of the other candidates to come on, although we had Zaki come on. So you'll get to see that. But in San Diego, there's some pretty interesting things happening. And I got to tell you, yeah, you can make a difference in the governor's race. But most people focus on the White House or Congress or whatever. And there's so little that you can do. These races are so big, there's so little that you can do. There are so many races in San Diego, right here in the county, where you can actually make a difference. And I really want to inspire people. Hey, there are things happening right here in San Diego that you can be a part of. So let's talk about it. Well, number one, you have John Franklin, who is the mayor of Vista. He's running for County Board of Supervisors. And he has a very good shot of winning. Like, he could absolutely win. He's going to replace Jim Desmond, who is running for Congress. Jim Desmond is being termed out, and he's running for Congress. And we love Jim Desmond. He's been great. We've endorsed John Franklin. He's great. He's running against a couple other people. A couple of Democrats have jumped in, and then there's the mayor of San Marcos, Rebecca Jones, who's also running. The interesting thing, though, is that the Jim Desmond is leaving, and so he's running for Congress, which has an opening, which John Franklin is running for, which leaves an opening, which another guy named Joe Green, who's on the city council. Now, I remember when Joe Green first started running for city council, and we met with him and endorsed him, and he's done a good job. And now he's running for mayor of Vista, which is going to create an opening for him. There's this whole big shuffle in Vista happening up in North County. Something to pay attention to. We're going to discuss endorsing Joe Green. We've already endorsed John Franklin, and there's a lot of really important work that you can do. I mean, those are very, very winnable areas. Now, one of the other places that has become particularly interesting is, and by the way, the only two cities in the county that have a primary for their city council is San Diego and Chula Vista. That's it. Santee, Elko, none of them have primaries. They all just go right to the general election. But here's another race I wanted to bring your attention because there's some interesting things happening. The treasurer, the county treasurer, okay? Now, you don't really think of the county treasurer as being an important issue, but they're the tax collector. They're the ones that actually decide or process the tax collection. And they're always involved. When there's some kind of tax issue, some kind of political issue, they're always involved. Assessor, tax collector, these positions are, they have their main focus, right, of actually doing the business of tax collecting. But then whoever's in that position also has the ability to raise funds for other people, to make sure that other people get elected. It's a very important position, and no one's ever really heard of it. The reason it's open is there's a guy named Dan McAllister who was in that position for forever, and he's actually a really good guy. And unfortunately, he's no longer in the position. They voted to put somebody else in that position. They appointed somebody. They didn't do an election. A guy named Larry Cohen. Larry Cohen is the current San Diego County treasurer or tax collector, Larry Cohen. Now, who is Larry Cohen? Well, he was the chief of staff for Juan Vargas. Juan Vargas, no friend to Second Amendment. Juan Vargas, pretty extreme when it comes to being anti-Second Amendment. And here, his chief of staff was appointed to be the fill-in San Diego County treasurer. What that does is it basically lets him run as the incumbent. Now, fortunately, no one's heard of this guy. No one's heard of Larry Cohen. And by the way, being the chief of staff for a congressman, why are you qualified to be the San Diego County treasurer / tax collector after being the chief of staff for a politician? Kind of ridiculous. But clearly they're trying to stack the deck. And I'm sure that Larry Cohen is probably going to use this position to, number one, get people that agree with him elected, and number two, he's going to use that as a stepping stone. So we don't like Larry Cohen. Larry Cohen's not somebody who's going to stand up for your Second Amendment rights. So what's happened is Joel Anderson, who's on the County Board of Supervisors, has decided, hey, I'm going to run for treasurer. Now, Joel Anderson is great on Second Amendment. He's a political powerhouse. He has hundreds of volunteers that work for him, or not volunteers, but people in his intern program. He's done that for years. I can't tell you how many staffers have gone through Joel Anderson's intern program. Absolutely wonderful. He, by the way, one of his big issues has been taxes. He's a big, Second Amendment guy, but he's even bigger when it comes to fiscal responsibility and taxes. So this fits him really, really well. Of course, he was in the assembly. He was a state senator. Now he is on the county board. So he is running for treasurer. Another person has stepped in. And what makes this interesting is if there is a third, then there will be a primary. So if it was just Joel Anderson and Larry Cohen, there wouldn't be a primary. They would just go to the general election because there's just two to choose from. But Shirley, I'm going to get her last name wrong, and she's such a great lady. Shirley Nakawatasi, okay? She is a resident of Imperial Beach. She's been politically active for forever. She's a wonderful lady. She's definitely a Second Amendment person. Doesn't quite have the resume that Joel Anderson has, but she definitely has a lot of name ID, and she definitely has a lot of ability. She knows what she's doing. She could, run a campaign. And the best case scenario here is that she decides to run, which she's exploring, and it sounds like she's pretty set on running. In fact, the Republican Party's already endorsed her over Joel Anderson, which is kind of interesting. But Joel didn't even ask for the endorsement, despite being a huge supporter of the Republican Party. It's kind of an interesting thing. But if Shirley, when she is running, but when she finally makes the decision and announces and runs, what that is going to do is it's going to do a couple things. It's going to force Larry Cohen to spend money. Normally, if it was just the two of them, him and Joel Anderson, he could just cruise right through the primary. He wouldn't have to spend any money. Now he's got to spend money. If not, Shirley could absolutely be, make it to the runoff, and it could be Shirley against Joel Anderson. Because of our jungle primary, where top two vote getters, doesn't matter what their party is. So if I think Joel, I can't imagine. I think Joel's got the shot. I'm hoping he wins. I think there's a lot of indicators that would show that he would win. Nothing against Shirley. Shirley's wonderful, but Joel is a political machine. I mean, this guy's so dialed in, and that will create an opening on the County Board of Supervisors, which then they'll have to decide, are we going to appoint somebody? Are we going to elect somebody? There's so much going on in local politics, and you listening could absolutely be the difference between someone winning and losing. The effort you put into it could be the difference between winning and losing. But I wanted to talk about some of the shuffling that's going on. I wanted to highlight some of these races and show you who's running and what's happening and the domino effect of certain people deciding to run for different office, and then someone's going to fill, blah, 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 on and on and on. Check out second week of March. We will announce our endorsements at San Diego County Gun Owners, but then it is up to you. We need you to share the list. We need you to get involved. We need you to donate your dime and your time and help us get the right people elected. Because that's the whole point. That's what we do. Together, we will win. That's the whole point. So there you go. There's your local political shuffle and update. That's what's going on locally here in San Diego on the political scene.
Those of you who know me know that I love training. You've heard me talk about different classes I've taken and different opportunities I've had to train with some of the best. And I'm going to talk a little bit today about Massad Ayub. Those of you who have never had the opportunity to train with Massad, he is a legend in this industry. He was a former police officer. He has a ton of experience with deadly force, and he has a phenomenal instructor program called Deadly Force Instructor. I went all the way to Detroit back in 2022 to take this class from him, and you guys are super lucky. He is going to be coming to San Diego, so you don't have to travel far to get into this class. One of the things that I really appreciated about this class is the opportunity to do a mock trial. We got to actually play different roles in this trial, figure out who gets acquitted or not acquitted, and just deal with all of those repercussions as if they were real. So we had lawyers in class who were, actually debating their client's case. We had different witnesses go on the stand. I got to play the daughter of one of the characters on the stand, so that was a lot of fun. But it was just a great opportunity for us to experience how a good attorney can really make or break somebody's case. And we've seen this time and time again in the deadly force instructor class. Sometimes you have an attorney who gets you off, and sometimes you have an attorney who doesn't. So it's a good opportunity for you to recognize how important the law process is and making sure that you have a good attorney. It's also a great way to make sure that you're teaching your students the best, most well-practiced pieces of the law. So for example, in class, Masad Ayub will go over a ton of different cases and do some case studies on how these cases turned out so that you can go back to your students with some real life knowledge of how these things played out in court. One of the biggest takeaways for me in this class was the amount of knowledge Masad Ayub had. And this guy knows so much about so many things. I took probably 8 pages of notes in this class, and I was able to come back to San Diego and I really revamped my entire CCW curriculum based on what I had learned. So not only is it real life data from actual shootings, actual defense situations, but it's also just a wide breadth of knowledge from an instructor who has literally decades of experience in this topic. I really enjoyed the class, and I think you would too. Go ahead and join us in San Diego if you are an instructor wanting to make sure that your students are getting the best information about deadly force and use of force. And if you're a defense attorney and you want to get a little bit of experience in a classroom with a bunch of folks who have the potential to use a firearm for protecting their own life in the future. So it's a great opportunity for you to learn about deadly force, being a better instructor, and being a better attorney.
So I believe that we are in the middle of a golden age of Second Amendment, and there has been more organizational and political and legal type successes than I've ever seen before or could imagine. And there is a group that is taking that a step forward, and they're actually doing a series of regional organizational type meetings to bring everybody together and give people resources and education and that sort of thing. And so I asked Holly Sullivan. She is a board member for the CCRKBA, which stands for the Citizens Committee for the Right to Keep and Bear Arms, to come on and talk about the first event in this series, which is coming up in May. So Holly, how are you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
Yes, ma'am. Thanks for coming on. This sounds really, really cool. It's called the New England Firearms Advocacy Conference, right?
Yes, it is.
And that's happening in the beautiful Commonwealth of Massachusetts, the state of Mass, right?
Indeed it is. You got to go behind enemy lines if you got to win.
I got to tell you, and Massachusetts really is. Tell us how bad, here in California, we know how bad things can get when it comes to Second Amendment. And there really are only a handful of states, 6, 7 states, where things are bad. California, Illinois, Maryland, New Jersey, New York, and Massachusetts is definitely one of those, right? Can you talk a little bit about how bad it is in Massachusetts?
Yeah, absolutely. So Massachusetts has had it hard. New England, the lower part of all of New England has it pretty bad. So Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Massachusetts are all affected by severe anti-Second Amendment laws. But yeah, there's they just had a massive bill passed last year. I know they're pushing back on it hard in Massachusetts. And I think this conference is so important to get these regional states together talking about their challenges so that we can also start talking about successes and strategizing around that and getting to know one another. So I think that it's critical to start doing it in the areas that are really struggling, because it's one thing to do a conference in an area that's very friendly to the Second Amendment, and it's almost like a pep rally and everybody is feeling pretty good. But for those of us that are really struggling, I think it's good to work together and see where we can be moving the bar the other direction.
Cool. And the purpose is to bring advocacy groups, grassroots, local groups, that sort of thing, together in one place and basically start marching to the beat of the same drummer. Is that the idea?
Well, yes and no. So one of the things that I really like about the way Citizens Committee is approaching this is Citizens Committee is not expecting any state 2A group to adopt any ideology or take away any unified mission together. It's really about how can we be better supporting one another. At the end of the day, nobody knows the needs and wants of the state to a group better than they do, right? So that whatever group it is, like in Massachusetts, it's Goal. I'm in Connecticut, so for us, it's the Connecticut Citizens Defense League. Like nobody knows the culture of your people, the makeup of your legislatures, the histories there better than the state 2A group. And why I really love doing this with Citizens Committee is that they've really taken an approach that I think is invaluable. That it's about how do we build up these groups, help these groups, but not ask them to take on like a national mission that they didn't sign up for. Letting each group maintain its own identity, maintain its own priorities. So basically come and learn as much as you can, but you are not asked to take away anything that doesn't suit you. And I think that that's tremendously important.
I've seen, in the however many years now that I've been doing Second Amendment advocacy, even long before Gun Owners Radio, before San Diego County Gun Owners, there was always this weird power struggle. One group would step up and say, here, everybody fall in line with us. And another group would say, no, fall in line with us. And then those two groups would hate each other. Sounds like you don't want any parts of that. You want people to be in the same room, shaking hands, saying, hey, what can we do together? Here's my phone number. Here's my email address. Let's, stay in touch rather than here's what we're all going to do. And if you don't fall in line, then, we're all going to be mad at you. It's not like that at all. It sounds like
not
it's far more kumbaya.
Yeah, so this is about getting so New England is relatively drivable. Unlike, California, north to south, you guys have a vast area. It's very hard to get around. But here in New England, most of us can actually get to where this is happening within a couple hours. So Maine is kind of the outlier, but where they are in northern Maine, they can't get anywhere but Canada anyway. So just teasing. But most of us can get to where this location is by car without the need to stay overnight if we don't want to. And so what I think is really going to be interesting here is that for the first time, we may be getting legislators meeting each other from different states, right? Connecticut legislators meeting the Massachusetts legislators, meeting the Maine legislators, and starting to form relationships that I think are so invaluable. And the same goes for attorneys. The same goes for influencers, as well as obviously the leadership of the state 2A groups. And why I think this is so important is you've got groups like a state like Maine, and Maine is now facing red flag laws for the first time. Connecticut was the very first state to ever have red flag laws. We got them in 1999. So for us, we can talk to them about, decades of history and what we've done that's worked, what we've done that's not worked. And they can take that information and use it as they want. We're not asking them to take it. They don't have to. But if a group is sitting there going, oh my gosh, our state's never seen this issue before. Where do we start? Well, start by knowing your neighbors. And I think that resonates countrywide. I think there's a lot of state 2A groups that kind of are in their own silo. And if they knew their neighbors better, even if they might be a couple hundred miles away, they're still your neighbors relatively in your region. Get to know them because they may have some really valuable information that might help you in your journey.
Yeah, I got to tell you, that was a mistake I made starting San Diego County Gun Owners. Is I was so hyper focused on San Diego, I didn't realize how much was going on outside of San Diego, and getting to know folks and finding out what works for them, what doesn't work, that sort of thing. That type of networking I've found is extremely valuable. It's fun too, but it's extremely valuable. But this isn't the New England Firearms Advocacy Conference. The idea is to duplicate this model in basically every part of the country, right?
Absolutely. Right. So that's exactly what you're going to see happen. You're going to see new regions coming up. It might be the Mid-Atlantic. It might be the tri-state area. It might be the Southwest. It might be the South, wherever that's going to take hold next. And I'm really excited for this one to be the first one and get some folks from other regions so that they can take that home and say, here's what we liked about what they did in New England. This piece might work for us, but maybe this piece doesn't work for maybe your region, right? Let's look at the Southwest area. Maybe it doesn't fit there for some reason. What I love about the Citizens Committee is they're genuinely in it for how do we support the groups. Whatever region it comes to next, you'll likely be working with me. I'll try to help get it off the ground with you. And then take what works for you. But the most important thing is what do gun owners in your region need to hear? And I think that's the number one thing, and making sure that that culture remains, that it's about the gun owners, what their wants and needs are, and not also the other piece of that, not duplicating maybe what they've already heard 20 times. We've never done anything like this in New England before, but maybe another region said, man, we have beaten that horse to death. Let's move on to something else. So it's very flexible, and I think that that's really important.
Okay, and you're on the board, and this is being organized by the CCRKBA, the Citizens Committee for the Right to Keep and Bear Arms.
Correct.
Talk about, and that's a national group. That's not a New England group, which is why they're able to facilitate, this type of thing all throughout the country. But tell us about the CCRKBA. What do they do? What are they great at? For people who've never heard of them, what do we need to know about the CCRKBA?
So CCRKBA is a little bit of a mouthful, has been around for a very, very long time. You're familiar with Alan Gottlieb, I'm sure. Alan Gottlieb, I like to tout that he's like the godfather of Second Amendment rights. He's my idol. This is his organization, and he founded it decades ago. CCRKBA is one of the two organizations that puts together GRPC. Everybody knows SAF. Alongside with them, GRPC is SAF and CCRKBA, and Alan is at the forefront of both organizations. So this organization is one so we are the 501c4 organization. So we focus on the advocacy and legislative issues. I think this is a group that is very, very long established. We're talking going back, 40 plus years that this group has been around. And I think that while other groups have maybe kind of taken off, this one's kind of been a little bit quiet. And it's found its resurgence with the state support initiative. And I think you're going to start seeing a lot more from us.
Yeah, I'm already seeing a bunch. I think it's very, very cool. You guys are getting super active. And like you said, I didn't realize how long the history was. I didn't realize it was, you said about 40 years it's been in existence?
Give me a second. Let me tell you exactly when it is. Because I actually, this is one of those things that I always I'm always afraid to misspeak.
Right.
So we might edit this.
Drum roll. Do we have a drum roll?
Do. So our board of directors.
Yeah.
No, I'm not ready.
Oh.
I'm not ready. All right. Well, let me tell you this. So you might know a number of these folks, but our board is relatively small. Dang.
What?
The drum roll got the dog going.
Yeah. Oh.
All right. So our board of directors, Alan Gottlieb,
Yes.
Donald Moran, myself, Ryan Petty, Mark Walters, John Petrolino, Richard Pearson, Cam Edwards, and Rick Patterson. So some pretty heavy hitters on this very small board.
That's big
and
time.
Yeah, lots of great energy too. What I think is awesome about our board is that we work really, really well together. Lots of synergy there. Okay, ready for the drum roll? We'll do
Go
it
for
again.
it. All right, go for it. Drum roll.
1971.
1971. So that's over 50 years.
50 years.
If I'm doing my math right. It's like 55 years. Holy cow.
Yeah.
So if somebody wants to go to by the way, I think I'm going, by the way. I think I'm going to.
Yeah, you told me you're coming. So
Yeah,
now you're coming.
I want to be there. I want to see the first one of these because
Yeah.
I'm hoping that one of these areas will be, the south. Where am I? Southwest. I'm hoping one of these areas will be the Southwest. So I want to be there for the first one. People that are attending, what are they in for? What's the purpose of showing up? What kind of things do you want them to see and hear and learn and do?
Yeah, totally. So they're obviously going to hear from all of the 6 states here in New England, kind of a Second Amendment state of the state. What's going on? And they're going to hear about what court cases are happening, what legislation is coming up, what legislation has moved forward, what have they been able to stop. They're going to hear from legislators from the various different states. They're not only going to hear from just Republican legislators. Let's be honest, the vast majority of New England are Democrat legislators. Like out in Connecticut, just like in California, I'm sure it's a supermajority Democrat. So getting Democrat legislators to talk about gun issues is really interesting. And I think you're going to get some of that. You're going to hear from some of these bigger personalities. We haven't released the lineup list, but so stand by for that. That is coming. And I think folks are going to be very happy. Then there's also going to be vendors and sponsors in the back. So it's a huge space. There's lots of room. And there's going to be plenty of sponsor tables. You can meet local organizations. You can meet local shops, whoever has a table there. It's going to be a really cool interactive day. It's a fairly long day, like 9 to 4:30 or so. And then the other piece is, there are very, very limited tickets left for the social hour afterwards. So there is a social hour that's going to be about 8 minutes down the street, because we can't have alcohol on the property where the conference is, but about 8 minutes away, there will be a social hour. And that is actually almost sold out already. And we are more than 90 days out for the conference. So I'm going to see what I can do to get that head count, like maybe up a little bit. But if you want to attend the social hour and be able to, kind of chill afterwards and have some time and relax with folks, get those tickets sooner than later, because there's only a few dozen left right now.
Okay, how do people get tickets? Where do they go?
Yeah, CCRKBA.org.
CCRKBA.org.
Yep. /FAC, Firearms Advocacy Conference. So the Citizens Committee for the Right to Keep and Bear Arms, so CCRKBA.org /FAC. And the FAC is for the Firearms Advocacy Conference.
Great. And it's May. What are the dates?
Yeah, May 30th. It is in Chicopee, Massachusetts, which is the neighboring town to Springfield, Massachusetts. For somebody like you, if you're flying in, you're going to fly right into Springfield, Massachusetts region. So coming into Bradley Airport in Hartford, Connecticut, which is just south. It's all very, very small. Like, I can't even explain. You can cross my entire state in under 2 hours, and you can cross my neighboring state in 1 hour. New England's pretty tight. So folks will come right into Bradley and hang out in the Springfield area. So it'll be in Chicopee, Massachusetts.
Chicopee, Mass. Okay, awesome. This May, the first of many. And Holly, thank you, and thank your whole crew for spearheading this and making it happen. I think it's awesome. And I'm really looking forward to it. I really think this is the kind of thing that makes good things happen. So thank you so much for doing it, and I appreciate all your hard work.
Yeah, absolutely. And if there's any state 2A groups that hear this and they're like fired up, like, yeah, that's what we've been looking for. We're looking for that platform where we can meet other groups but not feel obligated to take away a mission. Email me, holly@ccrkba.org.
Great. Holly Sullivan, CCRKBA. That's the Citizens Committee for the Right to Keep and Bear Arms. Thank you. Appreciate you coming on the show.
Thank you.
We use Seal 1. We treat every can before it goes out. We treat it with Seal 1. We've found that it not only does it keep the can cleaner longer, it makes it easier to clean when the time comes to clean it, and it's actually a little quieter even with the Seal 1, which it was a noticeable difference. We did a SOCOM table on 2 different cans, and the treated can was way quieter, like several dB quieter. Yeah, noticeably quieter. Yeah, 2 to 4 dB quieter. I wouldn't have expected it. I was surprised by it. I don't think it seemed like it was a long-lasting effect too. It wasn't just having an ablative in there.
Stump My Nephew. I'm begging you, please stump my nephew. Every week we have my nephew Sam on, and he answers a really cool gun trivia question. If you send in a gun trivia question and we use it, you'll get a hat or a shirt from Gun Owners Radio. And if you stump my nephew, well, you'll get a special prize. But good luck. So I think this is one of those questions that's really, really well formed, I would say. You know what I mean? Like, the subject's good, but the way that they wrote the question, I think this is how you write a Stump My Nephew question. I think it looks good. What do you think, Alicia?
It contains a name that I can't pronounce, so I mean,
yeah. Other than that,
I think it's great.
All right, you ready, Sam?
Well, you got me good the last 2 weeks, so I hope I can redeem myself this time.
I think you will. I think you studied well for this when we were in Utah.
Yeah, there you go. Take it over.
All right. So your question today comes from Alice from Lemon Grove. And her question is, if it uses just standard 9mm, why did they name it the Browning High Power? And what did I apologize in advance for butchering the name. Doidon Saiv from FN have to do with the gun?
So the question was, who sent that in again?
Alice from Lemon Grove?
Alice from Lemon Grove, thanks very much for writing in. Why is the Browning High Power called the Browning High Power? And what did insert Belgian name that I can't pronounce either here have to do with it? John Browning worked for a variety of firearm companies during his life. He, I'm sure, was an invaluable asset to all of them because he was, in my professional opinion, the greatest small arms designer who ever lived. His influence on the field is immeasurable, and his designs, his design elements, some of them continue to this day, particularly his short recoil tilting barrel system for semi-automatic pistols. So the Browning High Power was one of the last firearms he worked on. I believe he was still working on it while he died. This was at the end of his life. He was working for Fabrique Nationale in Belgium. This was in the 19 teens and I think early 20s. I don't remember the exact year he passed, but the Browning High Power, yeah, there it is. Beautiful pistol, good looking, handsome handgun, in my opinion. Its name is actually a translation from a French name that I will also not try to pronounce. I took the wrong language in high school, so I can't even give that a try. It was intended to fill a specification for a new French military handgun. They wanted a relatively high capacity for the time. The Browning High Powers magazine held 12 rounds, which was really a lot back then. You're talking like a lot of militaries are still using revolvers or 7 or 8 shot self-loaders. The US, we had the M1911 that held 7 rounds in the magazine. Luger's held 8. So 12 rounds of 9mm was nothing to sneeze at, still is nothing to sneeze at. And because of that high capacity, they called it high power in French, and it was translated to English. The French didn't end up adopting it. They adopted 2 other pistols whose designs are a little bit different. But the Browning High Power was adopted by a huge number of militaries around the world. The Canadians used them and made a lot of them. The British used them for a while. Lots of other Commonwealth countries did. And the design I mentioned earlier, I'm sort of telling this out of order. Browning was working on it at the time that he died. The design was completed by his understudy. Initials DS. Again, sorry, I can't do it. He DS, I will call him. Yeah, there he is. I was about to say, yeah, he's perhaps better known for designing the FN FAL, well, the FN 49 and the FAL, which was derived therefrom. But during the earlier part of his career, yeah, he worked with Browning on the High Power.
Did he get it right?
Of course I got it right.
I was waiting for that last sentence to go a little further. Like he got like 99% of it. There's one.
What? Read the last part of the sentence again. Question. Sorry. Read the last part of the question for me again, please.
What did DS from FN have to do with the gun?
What did he have to do with the gun? I believe he completed the design, right?
That's what
was there something else?
Okay. There you go. No, that's right.
That was it.
All right, there you go.
All right.
What's you want to read the answer provided?
Correct. Yeah, so he did get the answer correct, but yes, I'll read it. So when FN introduced the pistol in 1935, it was marketed in French as and this is that French term you were referencing, grande
GP
puissance.
Yeah, something meaning high power. That referred to its high magazine capacity. It states 13 rounds of 9x19, which was very high for a service pistol at the time. Most military pistols then, much like the 1911, held only 7 or 8 rounds. So high power equals high firepower, which meant high capacity, not extra ballistic power. It was designed by the legendary American firearms inventor John Browning in the early 1920s. Although he died in 1926 before it was finished, the design was completed by a Belgian engineer, DS, at FN in Belgium.
I wonder how you say that. Douandone Save.
Yeah.
Okay. I was 1 round off on the mag capacity, I guess.
I don't know. Maybe they meant 1 in the pipe and 12 in the
12
mag.
plus 1.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyway.
But either way, 12 or 13 rounds, that's, like even now, a lot of concealed carry guns only hold 10.
I don't even know this. I'm probably going to get laughed at in the comment section for this, but I don't know the answer to this. Are they selling high powers right now? Like, is FN making a high power right now? Can I go into a gun shop and buy a high power?
There's some high power knockoffs.
There are sort of two answers to that question. That is an interesting question. If you want to buy an original FN Browning high power or one produced under contract, you can't quite do that new. The old ones are still floating around as military and police surplus everywhere. But if you want a new production high power, your options are as follows. You could get a clone from, I think they're made in Turkey now. I don't know what factory it is that makes them or what factories make them, but you can get a clone, and I've heard decent things about those. Springfield is importing one of those, and I've heard mixed things. Some people say they have some problems. Supposedly those are worked out by now. Or you can buy the FN high power, spelled HIGH power, instead of the old one was HI-power. The name change reflects the fact that the design isn't really the same as the original high power. It's more of a look-alike than a reproduction. But if you want sort of the retro aesthetics from a high quality manufacturer, the FN high power, I'm sure, is a fine pistol. But if you want something that is just like an old school high power, parts interchangeable, everything's the same, then your best bet now for a new one is to get one of those clones coming out of Turkey.
Oh, wonder who make? Oh, it comes out of Turkey. Wonder who makes the clone?
I think it's Sarsalmaz, but I'm not sure.
Interesting. Well, that's interesting. All of that is very interesting. I did not know that. So, see what I mean? Alice from Lemon Grove. That was an excellent, excellent question. Unfortunately, you did not stump my nephew, but you will get a hat or a shirt that you can proudly wear throughout the county and improves your shooting accuracy by 10 to 12%.
I'm curious, Sam, did you already know that, or did any of that come about by the time that we spent at the Browning Museum?
Oh, no, I pretty much knew most, if not all of that. The high power is just such an interesting and historically significant handgun that I think goes under-recognized in the United States because our military never used them. I'm sure there was some U.S. service member once who borrowed one from a British comrade in World War II, but we never used them in an official capacity. But they were hugely popular throughout the world. As I said, the whole Commonwealth used them. Even, heck, Hungary made them. FEG in Hungary made Browning high powers. Other side of the Iron Curtain, they used them too.
You know, it's interesting. Pull up the picture again. If you look at it, it has an external extractor.
Yep.
Which is, well, I've seen some, like I think Smith & Wesson has a 1911 with an external extractor. But
yeah, it is in a few ways improved from the 1911. It's sort of the final refinement of what Browning was trying to do with the technology available at the time. It still uses the lug system for locking the barrel into the slide instead of what you see on more modern pistols like Glocks and SIGs and pretty much everything else that work like a P220. That design element of do you know what I'm talking about? The round lugs on the top of the barrel right in front of the chamber that was locking into the slide instead of the front of the chamber itself.
Right.
Yep. But that's okay.
Yeah, if you've seen a 1911 taken apart,
yeah,
you know what I'm talking about. The CZ75 is like that as well. And supposedly the CZ75 takes a lot of inspiration from the high power, which, I mean, look at it. There are a lot of visual similarities.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there are. But
and looking up the FN high power, the newer one released in 2022, it is actually produced directly by FN.
Oh, really?
So, yep.
Well, that's interesting. Well, a lot of people point to that external extractor as to why Glock is so reliable. So it's kind of interesting that this is like the missing link in the handgun evolution. I don't know. Maybe I'm making too much of that. Well, cool, man. Good job. Thank you so much as always. Browning high power. I think that's an excellent question and some good information. Great job, Sam.
Well, thanks for having me on, as always. I hope I wasn't too long-winded. And thank you, Alice from Lemon Grove, for sending that in.
Since 2019, more than 1,400 women have applied to be a part of Not Me CA. What began as a small program has grown into a movement that is empowering women across our community. Since 2021, we've hosted educational shooting socials every month, where about a dozen women at a time come together to learn and to build confidence. We've also granted over a dozen firearms to women who could not afford one, ensuring that cost is never a barrier to safety. Our work has been recognized at the highest level in San Diego County, and in 2023, the County Board of Supervisors honored Not Me SD with a proclamation, and in 2024, the City of Escondido did the same. But the real reward comes from the lives that we've impacted. We offer a series of classes from Stop the Bleed to pepper spray and situational awareness and women's self-defense, alongside with firearms training and CCW support. Survivors of domestic violence and sexual assault know they have a safe place to turn, and every participant is paired with a mentor to guide them and support them every step of the way. At Not Me CA, our mission is clear: to give women the courage, knowledge, and power. Created by women for women, we are here to ensure that every woman has the tools, training, and confidence that she needs to protect herself and to live without fear. But we cannot do this work alone. We need your help. Your donations directly provide training, mentorship, and even firearms to women who otherwise would have no way to protect themselves. Every dollar you give equips another woman with safety and with hope. Please join us. Invest into courage, invest into empowerment, and invest into women's safety. Together, we can change lives.
Last week, I was honored by the California Libertarian Party to come and give a talk during their annual convention, which happened to be here in San Diego. Truly honored. I got to tell you, if there are, a better set of folks in the political world, I have not met them. Highly, highly educated, highly engaged, and very, very dedicated. And thank you, Libertarian Party, for having me come out and give a talk. It was super interesting. They wanted to hear about the state of affairs when it comes to Second Amendment in California, which we talked about. But the reality is they wanted to hear more about activism. And there just aren't there. In fact, there's one person that I know of who's actually elected to public office as a libertarian. Used to be another guy up in Riverside named Jeff Hewitt, but he's not in office anymore. He did his thing and then left, went back to the private sector. Really great guy. But truly, I think there's a lot of advantages to having an additional party that is effective, not just symbolic. So I was very interested to talk about the Second Amendment and to share with them pretty much what they already knew and what you already know. California Second Amendment law is horrible, and it touches every aspect of a gun owner's life. In fact, I made the case that it is harder to be a gun owner in California than it is to be anything else. It's harder to be a gun owner in California than it is to be a homeowner, to be a business owner, to be, an illegal immigrant, to be, you name the hot button, item, you name the hot button subject, and it is harder to be a gun owner than it is whatever that is, whatever regulation, whatever group, whatever infringement on their liberty. It's more so and worse to be a gun owner. I mean, no matter what you do, you're highly regulated. They charge you more for it, and you could go to jail. I can't tell you how many people who have called and said, hey, I need an attorney. And they described a scenario where, they were doing something or owned something or whatever. It had to do with guns, but it was completely and totally normal in 49 other states. But here in California, they're now facing a felony. It's extremely hard to be a gun owner in California. So we talked about that. And again, it was something they already knew, but just getting down into the weeds on it was fairly interesting. But then there were some questions on vetting. In other words, how do you, what do you do to vet a candidate? How do you talk to a candidate? When somebody's running for office, how can you really truly determine, are they pro-Second Amendment? Now, I can't tell you how many people have told me as a candidate they're pro-Second Amendment. In fact, I can't think of one candidate who's told me they're not pro-Second Amendment. I mean, you've heard candidates on the federal level like Hillary Clinton say, oh, gee, I value the Second, I'm pro-Second Amendment. Obama say, oh, I'm pro-Second Amendment. And they turn around, of course, they back different regulations and laws to disarm you. They're not pro-Second Amendment. So we talked a little bit about, hey, how do you talk to candidates to ensure that you're backing the right person or you're asking the right questions, that sort of thing. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that. When you talk to a candidate, when you talk to an elected official, just simply saying, hey, are you for the Second Amendment? And they say, oh, yeah, I'm for the Second Amendment. That doesn't mean anything. It doesn't give you any information. If you really want to up your game when you're talking to candidates, when you're talking to elected officials, I have some suggestions. Ask them where they got their moral compass from. Where'd you get your moral compass? Does it come from religion? Does it come from philosophy? How do they make decisions? That'll tell you a lot more than just, hey, do you support the Second Amendment? If everyone wants you to vote for something and you oppose it, do you vote for it or do you listen to your constituency? Now, there isn't really a right answer. That's just kind of one of those questions to see, hey, what is this person's thinking process? Where are they coming from? How do they base decisions? What do they think they're in the office to do? Are they in the office to represent their voters, or are they in the office to make decisions based on their life experiences, their principles, that sort of thing? Where do you disagree with your party? I think that's huge. If someone's a Republican, someone's a Democrat, I want to know, where do you stop towing the line? Because if you tell me you're a Republican, for example, then I'm automatically going to assume, hey, this person believes in this, they believe in that, and you go down the party line and you assume that they're lockstep with everything that the party believes. But then sometimes they get into office and they vote against something or they make some kind of statement. You go, wait a minute, I thought you were a Republican. Same happens with Democrats. So ask them, hey, where are you say you're a Republican or you say you're a Democrat. Where do you part ways when it comes to your party's platform? What do you disagree with your party on? What is it, the Second Amendment? Is it some other item? A lot of times I'll ask them, describe to me what the American experiment is. In other words, why are we different? In 1776 and 1791, when we said, hey, we're going to become a different kind of nation, what is that difference? What makes us different? We have a constitution, right? We're a republic. We're a democratically elected republic. What does that mean? What were we trying to accomplish? And hopefully they have an answer. If they don't have an answer, that tells you a whole lot about who they are. Asking what is the proper role of government? Now, notice I haven't asked them a single question on, hey, 9mm versus 45 or whatever. We're not even there yet. I want to know, how are they making decisions? Philosophically, where do they stand on the subject of government? Some of the best Second Amendment people have been people who really didn't know the nuances on guns and some of the gun laws, but they philosophically and politically were far more intelligent, far more informed, far more principled than other elected officials. And that's what you look for. Where do these people stand? Why do they stand for what they stand for? But then what you also want to know, are they competent? No matter what they believe or how they believe it or how they came to the decision or where they stand on Second Amendment, can they get elected? I don't want to tell people to support a candidate who isn't going to do the things it takes to win an election. So a lot of times I'll ask them, well, how much money are you going to need to win? How much money did the last person who won, how much did they raise? You know, why do you need more or less? If you get that amount of money, how are you going to spend it? What are you going to spend it on? How many volunteers can you get? These are the kinds of questions that really truly show that you are someone who's serious about who you're voting for, who you're supporting, who you're going to spend your volunteer time with, who you're going to donate to. And I believe it makes all the difference. Rather than listening to somebody, you know, give some kind of bumper sticker answer to a question that they're prepared for, they've already answered 100 different times, and they give you kind of this canned response. You're not going to learn anything about this person by hearing it. Oh yeah, no, I'm all for the Second Amendment. CCWs are great. We love CCWs. You know, ask them, hey, how do you come to the decisions you come to? You know, what is your moral background? You know, where do you get your backbone from? Those sort of questions. So they were all definitely interested. I would put, you know, our vetting process up against any other organization. I think we do more and better research than just about anybody out there. I'm very, very proud of the things that we've uncovered, both negative and positive, about candidates. I'm very, very proud that we've identified candidates that other people, you know, didn't give the time of day to, and we've gotten them elected. And I'm very, very proud that we've identified candidates who are a real problem, and we've kept them from getting into office. You know, that's the difference. So there you go. Thank you again, Libertarian Party. There's a couple of pointers on how to talk to, especially new candidates that don't have a voting record, so that you can get to the bottom of exactly who they are and what they'll do once elected.